redo this. We gotta redo this.
Dude,
I
no.
lost it. I looked over. I can't deal with this.
Welcome to Fluent Grace, a podcast for students about speaking the gospel into the everyday, ordinary stuff of life. You've got questions, we've got answers. Or at least we will search the scriptures and see how the gospel of grace should inform a response to the questions you have. We love Jesus and we love students, and we hope students will grow to love Jesus more as they encounter Jesus' amazing love for them. Our music for the show is Felix Culpa and All Creatures by King's Kaleidoscope. How's it going, guys? Tim Wilson. Welcome to Fluent Grace Podcast, episode number 2.
2, baby.
That's right. We had so much fun doing this the first time, we had to come back and do it again. So,
Here we are.
welcome, Colin. Welcome, Tyler. How y'all doing today?
Couldn't be better. Having a great day. How about you, Tyler?
I'm doing beautiful.
Tyler, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this the last time we recorded, but Tyler gets comfortable when we do these things.
Real
So,
comfortable.
Yeah. I don't even know if he's changed his socks since last time we met.
They have a unique odor to them.
They do. One of these days, yeah, he sticks them right up next to my chair, too. One of these days, you'll be able to smell that through the podcast. We'll wait a little bit to get that technology. Anyway, we're back at it today. Gonna jump into some fun stuff. But before we do, this is actually gonna be fun. So before we get into the serious stuff, I guess we could say, how about we play a game? Y'all like games?
Let's
I'm in.
do it.
Let's do it. So we have no rules for this game as of yet,
Ooh.
which means we're gonna kind of make it up as we go. But basically what this particular game is, you know what, we need to have a name for this little segment.
Okay.
About Fluent Grace Games.
Got it.
Like that?
Grace Games for short.
Grace Games. What
Grace
up?
games.
Anyway, so, just one step under the Olympics.
I was thinking floors down.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, we're somewhere beneath the Olympics, right? Just start going south and you'll find the Fluent Grace Games. Anyway.
Do I get a participation trophy for these?
Negative.
Negative, but there is
I'm a millennial. I'm entitled to my
there's
trophy.
a candy jar in the other office that have York peppermint patties. All right. Loser gets a York peppermint patty. The winner doesn't get anything. So
Word.
how's that for a good game?
Challenge accepted.
Anyway, here's what we're doing. I've got a sheet here of teenage slang, right? This is
Slang.
something that was put out over across the pond in England, I think. So this may not even be applicable over here, but it was students, and this is a student podcast, and podcasts reach all over. So anyway, it works. We're going to do it. So what I will do is I will give you an abbreviation or maybe even a phrase. You buzz in by saying your name, and then give me the answer.
Can I do a buzz noise?
Yes, Tyler.
Oh, sweet.
You can do whatever you want.
That's what I'm talking about. That's dangerous.
That is. Never mind. Forget I said that. Right? Tyler does not have license to do whatever he wants. Buzz in by saying your name or some appropriate sound.
Got it.
Anyway, so for example, right, if I said the abbreviation was BRB, you would say, yes, Tyler.
Be right back.
There you go, and you would get a point. However, that was just an example.
Haha.
So it doesn't count. That makes sense?
Got it.
We good? Fluent Grace Games, numero uno. Here we go. Start off relatively easy. Buzz in with your name. And here we go. First one to 5 wins. All right, here we go. The word is cuz. Spelled C-U-Z.
Colin.
Colin.
Cuz is in reference to a family member in the South. Like your first cuz.
That is a true statement, but is incorrect.
Oh, I'm in trouble. I was going to say...
That's not the slang. That's the actual answer.
Oh, dang.
Come on. We're not doing actual answers here.
Oh,
Yeah,
slang.
slang.
My bad.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
bad.
Come on, 20-year-old.
I was
20-year-old.
on the same wavelength as Colin, so I was gonna say redneck slang for fam.
All right, well, you're both wrong. Since he got it wrong first, do you have any other guess?
Cuz is slang for cousin. Is that not right?
No,
Now I'm questioning everything I know about life.
that is not right. Cuz is the slang term for friend. What up, cuz?
Oh,
Just a friend.
all right
There
then.
you go. Y'all are failing
No
miserably.
information for me.
We're about to hand out 2 participation trophies.
Yes, double participation trophies.
All right, here we go. We'll try to dial it down a few notches and go a little easier, all right? I'm going to give you an abbreviation. 3 letters. Here we go. I-D-K.
Colin.
Colin.
I don't know.
Nailed it. There we go.
Mm.
All right, here we go. Colin 1, Tyler nothing. This one is sort of related to that one, so be thinking along the same lines. Here we go. Abbreviation is I-D-E-K.
I don't even know.
Tyler, got it.
Got him.
Colin, did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
All right, you were about to do it, but you got beat by the beeper.
Yeah, it was the brrr.
Threw you off. All right, here we go. 1-1. Sticking with abbreviations, I-M-O.
Colin.
I-M-O. Colin.
I miss oysters.
I don't know why that would ever enter your mind. Do you eat oysters?
I love oysters.
I'm gonna say, in my opinion, for 200, Tim.
You got it.
Thank you.
We will chalk that one up as a point for Tyler. 2 points for Tyler, 1 point for Mr. Oyster over here. All right, 2-1. Here we go. This is a phrase. This is a phrase that I don't think I would get, so good luck on this one, guys.
Boy.
Phrase is, I'm weak.
Colin.
Colin.
It's when you're laughing so hard at someone's joke or crazy actions that you just become weak from laughing.
Kind of
so
like
hard.
when we laughed at your Bitmoji.
Yeah, that's really true.
Oh. Donald Trump Lego man with too much sunscreen on.
Which, by the way, you have submitted a new Bitmoji. So,
Oh, we have submission.
yeah, we have
We
submissions.
gotta
so,
leave the old one. Gotta leave
so now it's just a matter of when we put it out there on all the socials. That was a good answer, by the way. You got it.
Word.
Yeah,
Tied up, baby.
Yeah, we are back to 2-2.
Is this the last one? First of 3 or?
Nah, first to 5.
5. Okay,
Yeah, we
sweet.
got too many of these good ones here. The official answer was that was funny.
Oh,
So
cool.
there you go. All right, this is old school. Okay, this may be the first slang term ever used.
Oh, I got this.
Ready, Tyler? Do you want a blind guess and automatically win? He's thinking hard. He took the glasses off, scratching the beard.
No, I don't have a clue.
Not gonna do it. All right, here we go. Ready? The abbreviation, LOL.
Laugh out loud. I'm so disappointed in myself.
You could have walked it
I
off right
know.
there. Grand Slam, bottom of the 9th. Taking it. Game 7, World Series.
Mm.
But you did get a point.
That works.
Yeah, it works.
It's the next
3 to
best
2.
thing.
Is that what it is? 3-2. I was actually one of those people that when I saw LOL, I wouldn't use it for the longest time because I thought it meant lots of love. I was like, why would I tell somebody that I love them like that? Anyway, question number 3, 4, 5, 6. I have no idea. Obvi.
Colin.
Colin.
Ob-
I mean, that's right,
That
but
sounds like a medicine.
yeah, says answers the guy in Scrubs. So,
Word.
all right, tied it back up, 3-3.
Totes obvi.
Define that one, Colin.
I'm good, really.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Abbreviation. PLZ.
Please.
Tyler, hit it with the please. Got it. Are we back tied up? 3-3?
4 to
That'll
4.
be
4
4
to
to
4.
3.
4-3.
I hope 4 to 3. You 3.
Tyler's up.
That's right. Get used to it.
All right, here we go, Tyler. 4-3. Colin's got to come back to win. Phrase. Straight fire. Yes, Tyler.
When you give your students a really scary message that freaks him out.
On
On fiery places.
H-E double hockey stick.
What's permissible to say on this podcast, Tim?
Well, we are talking about Bible stuff.
Oh.
So, hell is a real place.
That is true.
And we will get into that one episode. Not this one, but we'll get there. Yeah. That is not the correct answer, though.
Dang.
Colin, you have any thoughts?
I mean, when
Straight
I think
fire?
of straight fire, I'm thinking someone is speaking the truth.
Okay.
That's straight fire.
All right. Well, we've circled back around to giving the actual answer for what straight fire means. But anyway, the slang answer is something that is hot or trendy. I don't think messages on hell are necessarily hot or trendy.
I think they are in those snake handling churches, but we won't go there.
No.
Maybe another episode.
Not this podcast.
Exactly. All right, here we go. Next question. Tyler's still up 4-3. Abbreviation NMU. NMU.
Sounds like something off a Vietnamese menu. Namu.
Well, it's not. It's a slang term. Abbreviation used by students these days.
We are speech.
I'm gonna take a guess.
Let me give you a hint. All right. When using this particular phrase, you put a question mark at the end of it. So technically, it's NMU question mark.
Is it not much you?
That is it.
Whoa.
Mic
Ding,
drop.
ding, ding. Literal mic drop. You are our very first winner of the Fluent Grace Games. Congratulations, Tyler.
Feels good.
Colin, you get the participation trophy.
I'll take the York patty.
You may have the York patty. Welcome. No, not welcome. We already did that.
Welcome again to the Fluent Grapes podcast.
If you didn't join us for our first episode, I believe the main point of that one was we don't take ourselves too seriously. So
Nope.
just in case everybody missed that and they thought we were going to be serious the whole time, that's not the case.
This is a podcast about straight fire produce.
That's right, cuz. Although, really, you are technically my cousin, so.
That is true.
You-
Cousins-in-law.
Anyway,
We determined that
We
last
did
week.
that last week.
LOL.
Hopefully, that was educational for us. So, just in case nobody knows, Tyler won that game as a, how old are you? 30?
29.
29-year-old.
right.
Colin's a what? 20-year-old. So
Loser.
there you go. Mr. 29-year-old just took it to the bank. So today we're going to get a little into some fun stuff here, talking about the gospel. Because if you have seen our tagline for the podcast, it's speaking the gospel into the everyday, ordinary stuff of life. So I thought it was important for us to kind of define gospel and what are we talking about? How can that be something that we speak into our everyday lives? How can that be something that we live out on a daily basis as followers of Christ? So that's what we want to kind of kick around here for the next few minutes. As we get a good definition of what the gospel is, that should impact how we live. So that applies to us, Tim, Tyler, and Colin sitting around this table. It applies to everybody listening, no matter what stage of life you're in. The gospel is something that's it's a big deal, really big deal. It's powerful, and it can change how you live. So with that said, let's jump into the gospel. What is the gospel? Definition of it, examples of it, how do we live it? First off, what are our first thoughts when we hear the word gospel? First thoughts. Let's say you're on a game show. The host says, give me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word gospel. What do we get?
I'm going to have a skewed view since I am a minister. So
That's true.
I'm going to automatically go to the Jesus answer. However, I'm going to try not to give the Jesus answer.
Yeah.
So when I hear the word gospel, I would think of a news of some sort, of the latest, what's going on. What is the latest, the gospel, like what is happening? I don't know if that's what you're.
So almost, some folks use the word gospel as slang. Speaking of slang here, how about that? So, going off that, if there's a story that somebody's heard, yeah, you can definitely throw out the word gospel and just trying to cement the fact that that is a factual story using the word gospel. Okay? I don't know about y'all, but I just think quite simply of the first 4 books of the New Testament.
What I think of is just the record of Jesus' life. Just what all he did when he was here on earth, and the different avenues that he walked down, the different stories that he told, and just his overall life as a whole, and what he came to earth to do. And quite simply, that was to live a sinless life and take on death, defeat death in our place.
I like what William Tyndale says about the gospel. He says,
hold on.
Oh, what?
Who is William Tyndale?
William Tyndale? Well,
yeah.
William Tyndale is the pioneer translator of the Bible into English. So he's one of the first translators of the scriptures into English. And this is what he says. He says, Evangelion, what we call the gospel, is a Greek word signifying good, merry, glad, and joyful news that makes a man's heart glad and makes him sing, dance, and leap for joy.
Boom.
What y'all think about that?
Well, I think I'm not much of a dancer.
Never have been.
I didn't even dance at my wedding, so.
What a shame.
Well, that just means I picked the right girl that didn't need to dance at the wedding. But anyway, I digress. Not taking away. Yeah, that's a good picture there of the gospel. The fact that it is good news, and specifically that good news is, as Colin was saying, specifically it's that Jesus came. Right? If you boil it all down, the good news is that Jesus came to earth. For you, for me. So why, though, would he have to come? Right? I mean, that's kind of the next question that you logically go to. All right, yay, Jesus came. Big deal. I mean, there's a lot of folks that have been born and lived on the earth, and so why is it important that Jesus did?
Well, I would dive into it first and foremost and say that his life was prophesied for many, many, many years before. It was prophesied all the way back in the Old Testament, saying that a Savior was needed, the perfect sacrifice. And that sacrifice was for our sins, our wrongdoings here on earth. And so, yeah, that's what I think. What do you think, Tyler?
So what was the original question, Tim?
The original question?
Well, the last question. I don't know.
The original question, what is the gospel? We kind of said, ultimately, the best good news is that Jesus came. So then the follow-up question to that is, why did Jesus have to come?
Well, my answer is going to be based around an original answer called original sin. Oh, do you like that? You like that?
How about that? That's a very
little
doctrinal word right there.
Little Reformed theology for you. And so here's why Jesus had to come on our behalf, according to Romans. It says this. This is our resume. It's not very pretty. You don't really see it printed on many pillows in Lifeway. It says this, Romans chapter 3, verse 10. It starts out, it says, none is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside together. They have become worthless. Wow. You don't see that painted on people's walls in their house. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asp is under their lips. Their mouths are full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. And in their paths are ruin and misery. And the way of peace they have not known, because there is no fear of God before their eyes.
So basically, all that saying is we are really, really, really bad individuals.
We are jank, dude, on every level.
Zero
Slang.
hope. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's a fantastic description of who we were, who we are. Those of us who may be listening who are without Christ at this point. I mean, that's a picture of anyone who is without Christ. So yeah, ultimately, that's the reason that Jesus came, right? Because we are sinners, and I think for the average student, this is not popular at all, right? We live in a culture that says you can kind of do what you want. It's very normal to be disrespectful to your parents, or it's very normal to cheat on a test, or it's very normal to try to be deceptive in a relationship, right? These are all very normal things that students are allowed to do in our culture. But, if we really dig into those behaviors, it fits right in with those things you were just reading about in Romans. There's a very similar list in Ephesians chapter 2. We see lists like that in Colossians, right, all through the New Testament epistles, just lists of who we are without Christ. And whether we like to talk about it or not, that's us. That was me, Tim Wilson, before Jesus. That was, anybody around this table before Jesus. Think about the most spiritual person you can. That's who they were before Jesus.
Yeah, I love just to give you a mental picture, I love the picture of a jail cell. We were meant to end our life with execution. You are a inmate on death row. Your sins have equaled death, and you're sitting there and you don't know how much longer you got till they take you away, and the door opens up and in steps Jesus, takes your place, says, "Hey, I'll go for you. You are free." And I just love that picture. It gives you something to mentally see and wrap your head around clearly on why Jesus did have to come and die for us.
It was a very personal thing. It's not just Jesus had to come because he had to save the world, but I'm good enough that I don't really need that saving, right? Everybody else around me is bad enough that they need saving, right?
I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I think another interesting thing is like when we, and I'm guilty of this growing up. Like when I thought about the gospel, I thought of Jesus's response to our rebellion.
Yeah.
And it's not that way. It's not a response to our rebellion. Because if you go back and you read Isaiah 53, when it prophesies the coming of Christ, it says it was the will of the Father to crush the Son. The will of the Father to crush the Son. Unpack that, Tim. Hundreds of years before Christ's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the fact is that from the very beginning of time, when sin first entered the world, right, you referenced original sin here a few minutes ago, right? Adam sinned a long time ago. And whether we like it or not, whether we think it's fair or not, at that point, sin is around, and we are birthed into that sin, right? Well, really, we could take it back a little bit. We are conceived into that sin, right? From the very point of conception, we are sinners in need of a Savior.
You definitely don't teach a baby to sin. I've learned that
Negative.
the past 5 months.
Oh, my
That
goodness.
baby come out of the womb, woo, reeking of sin, baby.
Yeah, mine is now 1, a little over 1, and she's getting into the you can tell she's thinking about it sin. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, going back, sin entered the world with Adam thousands of years ago. And so, God being sovereign over all things and essentially being outside of time, he knew that from day one, sin would be part of the picture. And he knew that that was something that every person he created was going to have to deal with. And he knew that the only way to be free from that was to send Jesus. And so that's what he did. And that's the gospel. That's the good news. And so that's something that no matter what situation it is that we're going through, right, we can hold on to that. The good news is that Jesus left heaven. He left perfection.
Willingly.
He left everything that was good completely 100% willingly, so that we could have a relationship with him, and so that all those bad situations we find ourselves in, he's a part of, and he's walking with us through them.
You know, Tim, another thing I was thinking about is, and I didn't get this till much later in life, as in like the last few years, but every time when I was taught the gospel, or what is the gospel, it was always through the lens of justification, of how we're made right before God. So positionally, how we're made right, and how we're cleansed of our sin. And so here in the past few years, I've been trying to learn how the gospel is not just for justification, but it's also for our sanctification, becoming more like Christ. And I think that would be fitting to talk about in this podcast, especially how do we speak the gospel into the everyday rhythms? Well, how does the gospel transform us in the everyday rhythms and our sanctifying and becoming more like Jesus?
Yep. Those are two really big words. Quite simply, justification, I mean, that's a one-time deal, right? God does it. You're justified, boom. Sanctification is a process that takes time. So how the gospel impacts your sanctification, right, which is exactly right, Tyler. It's how does it affect the process or the journey of your life.
Because sanctification is a lifelong journey.
Exactly.
You never
Yep.
reach an end.
Yep.
Not on this side of eternity.
Yep. Until we have crossed the Jordan River, as a few of the old songs go.
You want to sing that line for us?
No.
Come on, baby.
No, I sure
Crank
don't.
it out.
I sure don't. I will pass on that. Tune in next week to hear
Colin.
Colin.
With the banjo
Negative.
quartet behind him.
Negative.
We can get him to wear that jogging suit that was in his Bitmoji week.
Oh, Lord.
I thought it looked good.
So anyway, yeah, when you take the gospel and apply it into these everyday, ordinary pieces of life, that is definitely a part of our sanctification. And the Lord's able to use that to help grow us into men and women who are more like his Son. And that's the beauty of the gospel, is that it's not just something that happened and is done and over with. It's something that happened that then affects every piece of who we are.
It affects how you deal with your coworker, or the ALDOT person in traffic, or
your kids when they're especially getting on your nerves and they have, spilt their milk in your car, or, when you're dealing with a particular teammate on an athletic, a sporting team that is just a
or
punk.
your band members, or your spouse one day when you're married, or if you're married and listening to this.
Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, right? You got to deal with those people. The gospel changes how you deal with them. So that's the gospel, right? Obviously, we can't completely unpack what the gospel is, how it impacts us in a brief podcast such as this, but we did want to just kind of give a pretty quick explanation of it. Hopefully, it's something that's makes sense on a student level, because we know that there's a lot of really big church words that we hear a lot of times, but we may not necessarily understand, right? We use justification and sanctification. Those are other more church words that are really big. So hopefully that just what we've been able to talk about in the last few minutes here is given a little bit of definition of that. If there's any further questions, feel free to hit us up. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, is to help answer you guys' questions and help speak into the situations you find yourselves in. So shoot us a question at on Facebook, Fluent Grace Podcast, on Instagram, Fluent Grace Podcast, Twitter, Fluent Grace Pod. Had to drop the cast. We didn't have enough characters, so stinking Twitter. Anyway, Twitter, Fluent Grace Pod, or our email address, fluentgracepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up at any of those places. Shoot us a question if you want us to dig into any of these gospel-related topics anymore. We'd love to do that. One final thing related to that, you can't separate God's love from the gospel. You can't talk about the gospel without talking about God's love. And John Piper has a quote here.
Name my kid after him. He's pretty foundational.
That's right, you did, didn't you?
I sure did.
All right. So anyway, Piper, solid guy. He says this, in the life and death of Christ, we see in a new way what God's love is and what man's love for God and for others should be. And through faith, the Spirit of Christ living in us enables us to follow his example. The only way that we can live the gospel in our daily lives is to follow the example of Christ. So no matter what questions we might have, no matter what situations we find ourselves in, if we're following the example of Christ in our daily life, then we're living out the gospel. That's our goal sitting here around this table. That's our prayer for everybody who's listening here to this podcast, that we truly be able to follow the example of Christ in living out the gospel.
I concur.
I third that.
And the beauty, I think, the gospel beauty in that is the truth is you will fail. You will fail.
Absolutely.
You will absolutely fail. But the gospel truth is that in your failure, you had someone measure up, namely Jesus, lived up in your place so that you're free to fail. And so, not that you go on failing for the sake of failing, but you don't ultimately rest in your performance.
Good. It's encouraging. Hopefully that's encouraging to everybody out there. The gospel is good news. It really is.
Good news for screw-ups, like every human being.
Of which Tyler is the chief. Isn't that
chief.
what it says in the Bible? Tyler's
I'm the chief of screw-ups.
Yeah, that's right. I thought that's what it said in there somewhere. Anyway, hey, as we wrap up our second podcast, we want to drop a new little segment on you guys. Colin's going to bring it to us. It is the Guinness...
I'll take over.
Hold on, Colin. What are we doing,
Guinness.
The Guinness World Records segment. So just recently broken Guinness World Records. So today we would like to present to you the most shirts worn at one time record was just broken.
Wow.
I went to Denver the other day. I wore 4. Am I anywhere close?
Well, you know what? You were only 256 away from breaking the record.
What?
Lord.
So a man in Ontario, I mean, come on, he's in Ontario, so it's bound to be pretty cold. But he broke the record by wearing 260 shirts. The top layer of shirt was a, get this, 20 XL.
I just want to know how much all that cotton weighed wearing that.
I
many
have an
shirts.
answer for you, as a matter of fact.
Get
He
you.
said that it was approximately 250
How
pounds.
big is this dude? What in the world?
Not that big. So, you know, the best part was he stated at shirt 150, he stated that he was thinking it was one of the dumbest things he'd ever signed up to do.
At shirt.
But at that point, what are you going to do? You going to go backwards or forwards?
I mean, you can't really do anything except stand there.
Yeah.
At shirt 200, I needed a total knee replacement.
So-
Shirt 250, I called the funeral home.
So I wonder, did this guy just wake up one morning and be like, hey, I want to see how many shirts I can put on? Or was there a previous record he was trying to beat?
Well, obviously there's a previous record he was trying to beat because he got the Guinness World Record judge to come out there and check him out. But it was a fundraiser for his son's school.
How about that? All right, so when
Tim, I expect you to break a world record when Jace needs to raise money for his school.
I agree.
Shoot, I was thinking about raising money for a, cool mission trip or something.
That sounds even better.
Yeah, let's go to, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into that right now.
Let's go to the Bahamas.
Yeah, different podcast, short-term mission trips with youth groups. We'll talk about that later.
Short-term mission trip. Vacation or not? Question mark.
That's right. How many souvenirs did your student bring back from their church mission trip?
We suffered for the Lord in the 75-degree weather on the beach in Jamaica.
During a 7-day period, let's talk about how many days we were actually working and doing stuff versus how many days we were playing and having fun.
Sipping margaritas on the beach.
Hey, students.
Oh,
Students.
my bad.
That's
Only the
leaders.
That's right.
Only the chaperones.
Different podcast. Go search Tyler's other podcast where he
Titled Margaritas on the Beach.
That's right.
Oh, with guest Jimmy Buffett.
That's right. Oh, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us here on this Fluent Grace podcast. We're excited to be through with episode number 2. Rolling into episode number 3 is going to come out next week. So we're going to try to put these out on a weekly basis. So as we mentioned earlier, be sure to check out the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also putting these up on YouTube, SoundCloud, and of course iTunes. Be sure you go to iTunes, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star. It'd be fantastic because, we all like looking at the stars and seeing all the things. So, anyway, do that. Subscribe, like, comment, 5-star, share with your friends, do all those things. That way we can get this out there and get the gospel in front of as many people as we can. That's our hope, our wish, our desire, our prayer. That's why we do this. That's why we talk about random teenage slang and Guinness Book of World Records.
And margaritas in Jamaica.
And that's why we try to limit Tyler talking as much as we can. So, gooses.
Latest.
We out.